And we are ready to go. Good morning, Michael. How are you? Live on Facebook now,
I'm
Michael.
good, Vinnie. It's
Here.
New York Vinnie. He's in Seattle, Washington. I'm Michael Knight. I'm
And
in
we are ready to go.
Pasadena.
Good morning, Michael. How are you? Live on.
Together, we're going to meet later at Feller's Garage and have the oil change and talk about life. If we don't cover it now,
You know, in the old days, that was where you did a lot of the talking, right? I mean, excuse me. I don't know if it was the same on the West Coast. I imagine it was. But on the East Coast, people hung out in gas stations. People, car guys, but even non-car guys after a while. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid in the early '60s, as far and even late '50s, as far back as I remember. My dad's gas station had always had 7, 8, 10 teenagers, or young 20, 21, 22, 23 year old gearheads, greasers that hung out at the station, and some of them worked from pumping gas. Some of them just hung out. Their girlfriends came down and hung out. I mean, that's probably where I got my love of music, because they, listen to different doo-wops and rock and roll at the time, and my love of cars,
and
and my
also,
love of being a little bit of an asshole.
and you want someone on your team when you're changing a water pump for the first time on a '78 Dodge Polara 500.
Well, yeah, well, earlier than that, I mean, that back then you didn't even have, you were talking about working on cars from the, 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s,
When you could get a part,
which were inherently simple, but
yeah,
yet hard to figure out sometimes, because you didn't, nowadays you bring a car into a gas station, you probably don't even bring a car into a gas station anymore, unless you want a mellow roll and and a bottle of Moxie.
you want an Arco dog, and you don't want an Arco dog, no matter what you think you want. That's not something that you should be eating. And first, the guy says, I don't know anything about your car. Let me see what the codes say.
Yeah, exactly. You just plug it in, and he
Plug
goes
it
on
in.
YouTube and he figures out how to fix it. I remember several. Well, I guess it is getting on several years now. I went back to one of my father's gas stations in Astoria, which is still standing. Most of them are something else now.
Yep.
But one of the gas stations that my father owned on 30th Street, Astoria Boulevard, which he owned from 1966 to 1973, I believe, 72. He sold it. He smartly sold it just before the oil crisis.
Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, and I remember it's now, they still do repairs there, but the office part, the part that that, and the body shop that was in the back, it's all a convenience store now.
of course.
And
We don't have parts. We don't sell tires. Get out of here.
yeah, you can't get a tire here. You can't get this, that, or the other thing. Um,
Do they sell oil? Can you buy a quart of oil?
you could probably buy a quart of oil. They have one shelf where where there's some car stuff. Like a couple of quarts of oil and some. My father,
And
in that gas station, you looked up at the shelves, and you look up at the shelves, and there would be like 9 million additives for your car that you didn't need. It was Wins Fiction Proofing, Shaler Rislone, Bardol, just all of that, all of that stuff. Excuse me, and it was fantastic. But the point of the story is, as I walked in and I'm looking around, and a guy is behind the counter. I think he might have been Indian or something like that. Oh, what do you? He goes, oh yeah, my father used to own this place a million years ago, and where the guy is standing was where the cash register used to be. The cash register was on this shelf that faced, so that you could look at the pumps at the same. If you had to go to
right.
ring something up, you could look at the pumps. And I always remember, man. Well, I mean, it's how you say you did something with your father and you'll never forget it. So
Right.
I remember I screwed something up, man, really bad. I did something that was and I can't even remember for the life of me what it was. But I was standing at the cash register. I had just pumped some gas in the car, standing at the cash register, putting the money in the cash register. And all of a sudden, boom! On the back of my head. And I just like, oh, my bells are ringing around, and my old man standing there. What the hell did you do? And I'm like, and I'm standing, I'm looking at that spot, and I'm just remembering, the look of my old man standing there in his Texaco uniform with grease all over it in his hands, and probably got a grease mark still somewhere in the back of my head.
Now, were those the white Texaco uniforms?
No, 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 no. These were the new more well. They were green. We actually still had the at that time Texaco was just in the transition of changing. Remember, it used to be the round
Yep.
with the white Texaco uniforms, but these were still the round star, but they were like a dark green
I remember. Yeah, dark
uniform.
green.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like really the Jack Benny uniform, and then not long after that, they switched over. I think 1967 is when they went to that new elongated logo.
It took me forever to figure out that Texaco had something to do with Texas. I just thought it was the name of the company that had, it was a mild coincidence.
Texas Oil Company, Dallas, Texas. No, Houston, Texas. I remember when you used to have to send off the credit card slips
Yeah.
to get credited. And actually, you didn't send them off. You typed them up, you added them up, you put them in a thing, and when the gas delivery came, you gave them to the gas driver.
Save a stamp.
Right, but you put it in an envelope, and the envelope said Texas Oil Company, Houston, Texas, Houston 67, Texas, or something like that. And I used to total the credit cards for the delivery. Of course, that's what you had to do.
And what was gas in those days? You remember what the price of a gallon of
Oh
gas?
yeah, I think it was when I started helping my dad pump gas as far back as I remember. And I had a great picture of this, and I lost it somewhere. Of my dad standing up putting gas in a car. At that station, at that time, it was 28.9 for Sky Chief
Whoa.
and 25.9 for Fire Chief, which is
Yeah.
regular.
I remember 25 to 27 cents a gallon,
Right.
clearly.
Yeah, yeah, and that was yeah. That was, and then I remember we went when unleaded gas came out. We went to 30. I remember we went to 30. It might have been 31.9 or something like that. And we had a price war because there was another gas station down the street. So we had to stay. You didn't want to be more than the other gas station.
Same as, but not more.
Right, same as. You always want to be same as, but you didn't want to go up more because in those days, a penny was a penny to people. I mean,
Certainly a penny to the Texas Oil Company.
yeah,
They like those pennies.
and I think wholesale I think you made 7 cents a gallon, 8 cents a gallon. And
Wow.
then my father was an independent. It wasn't a company station.
So he probably had to pay other fees.
No, they paid him.
Ah, they don't like that.
No, they don't like that. They paid him. I remember when he bought the station, it was a mobile station. And Texaco came to him after he bought the station and said, we want this location. Because it was right off the Triborough Bridge. And they came to him and they said, well, what can we do to get this, get you away from mobile? And my father hated mobile anyway. He had a dispute with mobile when he had one of his other gas stations and was just really PO'd at them. So I think if I remember right, they gave him a bonus check of a couple of $1,000.
Signing bonus.
Yeah, like a signing bonus. They revamped and painted the station. Put a new sign up, obviously.
Right.
and also did put a new curb cut, or was supposed to put a new curb cut in. Fix the
Right.
curb cut so it had a little bit easier access, and a complete set of uniforms for all the staff. The first set of uniforms they paid for everybody.
That's not
Um,
a that's not a complicated deal.
and I think he had and they rebated him a penny or 2 cents, might have been 2 cents a gallon for every gallon he sold. So in those days,
That was the deal right there.
that was the deal. And so I remember, I think it was, he bought the place in early 66, I think middle 66. He
I
switched.
still think your idea about a team of window washers, tire checkers, and under the hooders that are unrelentlessly perfect and professional and fast is the way to get people back into the gas stations for a new look at service.
I absolutely think that if you had a high end neighborhood,
Yep.
not even a high end neighborhood, but a middle neighborhood. But the problem is now people would right now it would be a hard sell. But once the price of gas drops for another 10 cents a gallon or 20 cents a gallon, if that worked out, um, yeah, I think people, because again, what sells? Service.
Right now, prices around LA are 550, 540 a gallon. It's going
We're
down.
under five in most places here.
We're not. Now that could change this week.
Yeah, it'll probably go down a little bit this week. And don't forget, as summer comes to a close, the formula of gasoline will change.
And they can shut down the refineries and raise the price.
Yeah, it becomes cheaper. But yes, they will. They'll. So, it's funny too, Michael. How many people were screaming about, look what President Biden did when,
That's my first note.
yeah, see, we're on the same.
Well, the thing is, 2 weeks ago, Vinny, as you remember, Joe Biden was done. His numbers were the worst since Donald Trump. His numbers had never been this low, this early in a administration. They asked him about it a couple of weeks ago when he was in Europe. He said, "You know what? I'm not even halfway through my first 4 years. A lot's going to happen." And less than a month later, instead of Joe Biden being out, he's in. He's got new legislation. Instead of him being weak, he's strong. Instead of him being morose and down and sick, he does better from the Oval Office when he's in isolation than he did when he was active and pressing the flesh. And it happened in 1 week. The flip around was sudden. And Donald Trump now is making his well-worn stump speech without knowing who he's talking about. And this campaign that was supposed to be so tight suddenly doesn't look that way anymore. Of course,
Well,
in a month, that'll be different as well, I'm assuming.
yeah, see the problem is we've got so many polls and so many different things out there, and such a quest for 24-hour media. 24 the news cycle, and you have to have something. If there's a glitch in the polls, and people just look at it on a one-day basis, and you can't do that. You can't govern on a one-day basis. You have to govern on what's going on out there, and it takes time. And it's not just the President Biden or President Trump or President Kennedy just waves a wand and it all goes away or does something about it. Biden isn't sitting in his office raising the price of gas, saying, "Oh, let's see if we can get enough. Let's get it to $7."
Let's
He's
go all
not
the way to
snidely
7.
freaking whiplash. I mean, he has a certain amount of control. The forces have to, he has to fix them. He has to talk to them.
Good is hard, Vinny. Putting something together that's good and strong and vibrant and important for the country is almost impossible, especially with the Christian cinema hanging around on the edge of the proscenium.
Right.
But what's interesting now is that Joe Biden looks presidential suddenly in the last week he actually is not actually on the screen anymore. He's in isolation. He's recovering, and in that position where you would assume he would be weak, He's turning out to look stronger. Whereas Donald Trump, when he waves his hand, things get worse, and it's easy for him. It's a natural gift. He can make things worse with a wave of the hand. But to make things better, that takes help, and that takes the Washington boys to actually get together, vote, and do their job.
Right, and listen, let's face it, the Republicans, look, they never gave Obama a clear shot at anything. They had, I mean, this goes back for years. The Republicans have been pissed off since Nixon. And
And then they got,
jobs.
then they got really pissed off with Obama.
And they got really pissed off with Obama because it rubbed people the wrong way that he beat John McCain. It rubbed people the wrong way that he was, everybody had something that they didn't like about Obama.
Starting with the fact he was black.
Right, right. Mostly that he was black. How the hell did this happen? That's where it started. But Obama still will go down in history as one of the great presidents because he did something like Lyndon. Lyndon. We look at Lyndon Johnson sometimes, and everything is overshadowed by the Vietnam War because that's what the media feeds us.
And that's where I got a lot of mail from Lyndon Johnson during those years.
But if you go under and look, the same thing with Nixon. Watergate overshadows everything and the fact that he had a scandalous administration. But these guys understood that you have to give stuff to people too. See, that's the thing we don't have today. They understand that they ran scandalous administrations, did things that were scandalous, but they made sure that the American people got something out of the deal. They had the war going on for Johnson, but yet you had Medicaid, you had civil rights.
The Great Society.
You had the war on poverty. You look at Nixon, and it was a whack job, but you had the opening of relationships with Russia, the opening of relationships with China. Which again, if people forget, we didn't have that before. They was them and we was us. And plus you had the Environmental Protection Agency.
We'll get rid of
Things
that.
got out of hand like they are now. He froze prices for 90 days. I mean, you go back and you look at these people who we regard now as scandalous, or in Obama's case, as impotent in the fact that he couldn't get much done. But I don't know about you, but my health care is because of President Obama.
Well, what we saw yesterday was that if the Democrats, with the help of the vice president, vote the way they're supposed to, we can pass extraordinary legislature. The only thing stopping the Democrats from doing even a better job is the Democrats themselves. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema stood in the way of centuries of progress that we could have had going by now that they personally stopped. So Sinema could have the day off to go train for a marathon, and Manchin can have his coal money and his daughter's
drug
money. And those two people, out of selfishness and a mean spirit that cannot actually be accurately described, have come to put the brakes on all legislation without the help of the Republicans, who voted to a man and a woman yesterday, no, on everything that the Democrats proposed. No across the board. You want a better life? The Republicans say no. You want a better cut at a better deal in the future as an American participating across all society? Republicans say no. That's something that's not for you. However, for themselves, they're willing to do extraordinary damage just to stay good with Mitch McConnell and the gang, just to be close to the should we call it the base? Is that really what we're dealing with now?
Well, yeah, I guess it's the base. I mean, I don't know, because the base, seems to be
eroding.
Trumper.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of Republicans that, although would oppose what Democrats want to do, aren't Trumpers.
No.
And they've got, and matter of fact, I think the Republican Party is banking on that.
Well, the rats will leave the ship sooner or later. We got a long way to go before he even declares, and that's something he should have done now before his court cases begin. He should get his campaign going, but he hasn't gotten one. He hasn't got an organization. He hasn't got a level of organization that would allow him to jump.
Well, I heard somebody yesterday. I'm a junkie for the Sunday morning shows, and I heard somebody say that this is very, very different than 2016 and actually 2015 when he was, or 2016 when he, 2015 when he came down the stairs and made the grand announcement that he wanted to rid the country of the vermin like Mexicans and this and that absolutely horrific.
He's a pest disposal man.
Yeah, that he was gonna build the wall and all that crap. The country is in a different place. Maybe worse, maybe not.
Well, actually, our jobs report shows we're the most employed people in the last 50 years.
But yet the perception 70, I think it's some number like 70 something percent of the people still think the economy is bad. You have to get the numbers down on what people are spending.
What would the play be if we were to ask Americans today, is a wombat more dangerous than a wolverine? I'd like to see what America has to say about something important like that.
A wombat's in the lead by 72%. But Trump now has a record to run on.
Did you ever pick up a wolverine?
No, and I don't intend to.
There you go. Good advice.
I think, Mikey, that this person was right to say, number one, Trump didn't have a record to run on then.
Right.
He was kind of this thing that came out of, you know what I always equate Trump to? Many years ago, the Italians elected a porn star named Ciccolina.
She was good in office. She did her job.
She did her job, and many others too. And I always, and the only reason she won is because half the people in Italy knew her name. She wasn't a politician. She
was a sensation.
She was a sensation, and people knew the name. They voted for her, and she got into the National Assembly. She didn't become prime minister, but she got, she was up there, and so were many others at that point. Sorry,
That's where they were. I'm sorry.
But Trump is the Ciccolina of American politics. He is. He runs on not substance but celebrity.
Sizzle. Sell the sizzle.
And add that into the ever popular fear. I mean, look at who he has running. Look at the candidates he's endorsing across the country. Tommy Tuberville.
Crackpots and charlatans, every one.
Yeah, Herschel Walker. The bimbos out in Arizona.
I think Herschel Walker's pot does have a crack in it. I believe it does.
I hope he's not smoking pot, man. He can't put two words together. Could you imagine Herschel Walker up on the freaking Senate floor trying to argue anything?
He explained the bad air over China by saying it was really just good air here that the Chinese air was displacing.
Yeah.
Which shows a pretty sophisticated understanding of weather patterns on the world, I'd say.
Or Tommy Tuberville, who was asked what the three branches of government was, and he couldn't even answer it.
Did he get two?
I don't think he got one. I think he said it was the presidential.
Oh, the presidential.
The presidential. But anyway,
it's the
luster is off of that. Donald Trump is now Donald Trump, who miserably. I mean, you can point to some achievements as president.
After the tax deal, there was nothing.
But for most, his legislative program was, I'll tell you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks we'll have it. I told you we'd have it in 2 weeks.
You watch, in 2 weeks we're going to have a big league plan.
And
That
it'll be
was his
beautiful.
entire legislative program. His entire focus was on winning the election again and
Mhm.
and letting people know that if he didn't win, it was rigged, and playing this enormous freaking mind game with America, and especially the weak-minded. I mean, go to a Trump rally.
Oi.
I'm not saying. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I'm saying too.
Go
And
to a Trump rally and
I'm
stand there.
just, it's,
Your dog would be the most intelligent person in the room,
in
for the
fact,
most part. For the most part.
the three branches of government, by the way, for Tommy Tuberville: offense, defense, and special teams. And it's always been that way.
How the hell did you know that, Michael?
How could he not know that?
You.
It explains some of his coaching decisions over the years, that's for sure. Send in the legislative branch. No, Tommy, send in the defense. Okay, same thing.
Oh my God.
Send in the judicial. No, not the judicial, special teams.
Oh man. There you go. There you go. So anyway, yeah, listen, it's going to be boring. It's just, I've said this all along, and I'll reinforce it. I'll reiterate it. I will say it again. I think that eventually, but then again, don't forget, I was the guy that advocated that Bill Clinton actually leave office before the beginning of his, before the end of his term. This way, Al Gore could run as the incumbent, but they weren't smart enough to do that. Anyway,
Clinton was never going to do that,
yeah, but
pride cometh before a fall.
yeah, but the reality was is that he couldn't govern, after
No.
that fiasco, that impeachment.
There are lame ducks, and then there's just ducks that can't go anywhere.
Right, and he was a duck that was just paddling and going nowhere. Nothing was going to happen. He would have been better off giving it to Al. Al was a senator before that, and maybe it would, But anyway, what I think is going to happen with Trump, and I've said it, a million times before, and I'll say it again because this way somebody will be able to say, "Oh, Vinnie said that first. Mikey said that first," is that he's going to get indicted. They're going to gather enough evidence to indict Trump. I mean, it's plain to see at this point,
right,
that it's there. If all of the stuff in the committee is true and it will stand up under cross-examination, a grand jury or whatever they do is going to deliver an indictment against Trump. Or
undoubtedly.
Wait. The other scenario, the scenario really is they're going to go to Trump and they're going to say, "Listen, Monday morning, you're going to be indicted. You've got basically 48 hours here to get your stuff, get a boat, and get out of Dodge." And go sit in Bimini, enjoy your money, keep your mouth shut, and we'll just put this.
But all the cheesy furniture here at Mar-a-Lago, that stays. We're keeping that. We're going to sell those. We're going to sell those chairs.
We got a bunch of Cubans we'd like to bring in.
I would sell Trump's furniture to his base. Get some little housewife in Waterloo, Iowa, to buy one of those yellow chairs, posing as gold.
Look at that, man! Donald Trump spilled his Big Mac sauce on there.
Yes, he did.
For me, that would be the best scenario. Maybe it's fantasy, maybe it's not. I think that he should pull an Adam Clayton Powell, and because the injury of a trial for Trump would bring progress in this country to a halt.
I think it would bring this argument of arguing the impossible and arguing the ridiculous and arguing the lie to an end. You take the top liar and the top most ridiculous person you do, and you make them stand up to justice. You find them guilty and you sentence them.
Yeah, I believe that, but I mean that's the way it should work. But I don't think we're dealing with reasonable and logical people here.
No, we're dealing with the Trump's legal team, which is
well, not just the legal team, but I'm talking about the average person. I'm talking about the guy in the pickup truck with the Trump flag hanging over it.
He gets a vote. That's his weapon. He gets a vote like everybody else. He voted for Trump. He loved Trump. Those days are over.
Right,
Time
but
now
you
for a
see,
new
there's a lot
reality.
of people. There's a lot of people, Michael, that are doing more than just using their vote. They're trying to take the vote away from other people. They're thinking it's a good
Same
idea
game.
to go out and attack public officials, attack
It's the
election.
same game. You're right. It's the same game, but it's the same people playing it. It's
Uh,
the same ideas sponsored it. The same hatred and disgust with rule of law and structure of democracy is sponsoring it, and they won't let go until they're stopped. The one thing that we've learned about Trump and his supporters is this will never stop until you stop it. It's the
how did
Nazi rule. What did it take to stop the Nazis? On Hitler's last day, what was
well,
going on in Berlin?
I mean,
The
it goes
capital city was in flames, and he wouldn't give up.
right.
The people were beside themselves and left to the whims of the Russian army, and he wouldn't give up. And that's just going to be the same with Donald Trump. As long as he lives, as long as he operates, as long as he has his strength and his power base, his actions and the people who support him will not stop. If they're not stopped, this will not stop.
Do you make a martyr out of him, though? Do you make it, in essence, a figure that emboldens and empowers people?
Well,
Let me ask you this: How
what
did
about the brown shirts in Italy? Who did Mussolini empower when he was hanging by his heels?
well, that was enough because Mussolini took it to an extreme. Mussolini was a person, much like Donald Trump,
Yes.
that thought that he could do no wrong, that every move he made, and he was clearly thought he was above the people.
Well, remember, the Italians came up with the idea of an infallible pope, not a powerful pope, not a holy pope, infallible. Now, that's an interesting job to have and an interesting set of qualifications to suddenly acquire late in your life. Here's 67-year-old Patrizio Regini from
Yeah.
Palermo. And yesterday he was a fat Italian cardinal. Today he's infallible.
Well, the interesting thing about the infallible pope is that you hope that you get somebody that believes, excuse me, that that you're supposed to be kind to people, that you're supposed to live in the image of Jesus and God and all of that stuff. You follow the Ten Commandments, you do what's right.
Put your money in the papal bank.
Every once in a while, though, you get one that doesn't think exactly that way. And, while we have made Pope John Paul II a saint, there are probably millions of little boys who were molested by priests that
No,
tell you that
no,
he wasn't infallible,
yeah.
that they did nothing about what was going on, that they just stood there and just moved people around when they
You know
had,
what?
500,000 Jerry Sandusky's.
And their solution was, you know what we need? More priests.
Yeah. And would do nothing to change the situation by maybe letting priests marry. I mean, I'm not a big, if priests marry, they're not going to diddle little boys anymore. Because I
No,
think that's a sickness. And I don't think getting married is going to cure a sickness. But what causes the sickness? Is it that you suppress this desire
the institution. It's
for
tradition.
so long that you find vulnerable populations to express it on, and the most vulnerable population for a priest that works in a Catholic school is the kids or the nuns.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew that the nuns and the priests were I mean, in St. Joan of Arc, we had three or four nuns, I think, and priests that I know we had one actually got married and met each other and said, "Whoa, see ya, we're out."
Now you were to St. Joan of Arc.
St. Joan of Arc, our barbecues were spectacular.
Now you know what happened to poor Joan. And where was when she needed the church to save her, or at least step in and stop the action? Where were they?
They said, well, listen, we're busy today. Well,
Can you do?
ask them if they'll hold off till tomorrow.
They say no. They say the deed is done. The lamp is lit.
So to say, yes. Yeah, that's, and again, is, you know, politics, as we well know with the Catholic Church, overrules money and politics overrule everything.
It's called the archdiocese. Well, the archdiocese says
I mean, we've seen it, through the Crusades. We've seen it through, the Dark Ages. We've seen it through several wars. We've seen it through the tragedy of the Holocaust.
Don't forget the Reformation, when a lot of those people got theirs, but
Right,
they didn't see it coming.
We've seen it all through the Catholic Church, as does many churches. I'm not going to just single out the Catholic Church. They do what's good so they can keep the buildings.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, they do what's good so they can keep the buildings.
Well, what did King Henry take away from the church when he started the Church of England? He didn't take away their right to have Sunday service. He took their monasteries.
Right.
He took their churches. Go ahead, be Catholic. You can't have this building anymore, though.
Right. If you can be Catholic out in the field, God bless you.
By
But
all means, begin.
we now own the monastery. It's us now. Get out. And so I mean, you have. That's what I mean when you think about it. That's what the Catholic Church is all about. It's about keeping the buildings.
Yeah.
We want
and the gold in the buildings.
Yeah, and all the riches. I mean, that's the bottom line, because their belief is if you don't have a building, you don't have anything. People aren't going to come. People aren't going to be attracted to it. And that's one thing I've always loved about the Black Church, man. I've always, since I was a little kid, and I used to drive on Northern Boulevard to go to Shea Stadium. And Northern Boulevard, once you got to Junction Boulevard, was a black neighborhood, Corona, where Louis Armstrong lived. And there was just dozens of storefront churches.
Yep.
And if you rode there on Sunday morning, whether it's on the bus with no air conditioning and the windows were open, or in the car, you heard the sounds, the tambourines, and those people didn't need a big building. They just needed some chairs. That's all. And what you came to find out is that their belief in God was just as good as anybody else's belief in God that had the St. Patrick's Cathedral. There was no difference. As a matter of fact, they had more fun at it.
Well, they didn't have so many people buried in the basement.
And the guy who was singing the songs could be heard at the back of the room with no microphone.
And he could sing.
And he could sing. Or the woman.
If you ever heard a vicar from the Church of England sing, you know what wimpy means. No.
The priest now, when you go to mass, I still go to mass every once in a while. They sing the mass now.
Yeah.
In Latin. In some places.
They can't do it.
There's a few I've run into that are good, but the overwhelming majority should not be singing.
Or learn to sing. Come on, put some life into it.
Yeah, it's just such a holy, ominous, they're just not. And then they're mic'd up so you can hear them at the back of the church.
Only the church sings hits from the Middle Ages. Nobody else goes back to those Dark Ages charts and says, what was number 15 on this day in 900?
But I'll tell you, Michael, some of those hits stick with you. I remember one of the songs we used to sing in church was Almost Holy Trinity. And
wait, Almost Holy Trinity?
No, almost. Oh, but we used to sing. We used to sing almost.
I thought there's a song that hasn't quite got its point of view down. Well, we got an Almost Holy Trinity that we want
Almost Holy Trinity. but the song sticks with you. You know, I mean, you remember some of those songs. I remember the big revolution, and again, go back to the '60s, or maybe it was the '70s. Was folk mass.
Oh yeah.
That was the big thing. They used to do it. They didn't even do it in the church, Michael.
No.
Yeah, it was so shunned by the hierarchy of the church. They did it in the basement of Ward Meehan Hall.
And they would pick up songs that they learned at Washington Square Park on the weekend.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly what happened. Is they had excuse me, they had people that could play guitar, local guys. I think there's a couple of guys I'm even friends on Facebook with that played at those folk masses, and they came up and they wrote songs that expressed love for the liturgy, love for the catechism, but not with the organ and a thing, but with a guitar and maybe a piano.
Right.
And you know, you would go down there, and again, it was 1970, 71, 72, and those masses, you'd find all your friends down there, the ones that still thought that, you know, you had to go to church. I think they were on Saturdays. I think it was the first time that they had done masses on Saturdays.
Well, going up against the shul and the temple.
Well, yeah, the temple was right down the block, so we had to do something to get, you know, you put a speaker outside, you try to get the Jews in to convert them.
Come on in.
Come on in, we got music.
Bring your guitar. Bring your clarinet.
It's hot. You can shave your beard. Come in.
Hey, over the weekend, real life sort of imitated television for a while. It hasn't come full circle, but there were 4 murders back to back in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Muslim men were killed on the sidewalk. It wasn't big news until yesterday.
Yeah.
And why I think it's television mimicking real life is because there used to be a show called Criminal Minds, where the FBI special agents that profile serial killers are called into cases all over the world. And I thought that's what they were going to do in Albuquerque yesterday. Say, we got a problem. We have now 4 killings, so that's 1 more over the number that you need to have a serial killer. He or she is working the streets of Albuquerque, and we've called in the FBI Criminal Minds group, and they're going to profile this person. We're going to nail him down. We already know what the car looks like. But they didn't do any of that. They just said, here's a number to call if you're in trouble. Here's a number to call if you're worried. Here's the idea of what we're doing in the community. And now here's the cop with nothing to say. And now here's the mayor with less to say. And I was hoping that organization within the FBI still exists. And what can't they volunteer and say, we can help you. You got somebody here that you have to stop. And then the time between the killings is decreasing. So the panic level is going up accordingly. And I wondered, where was the FBI? Because of all the things that the people said in Albuquerque yesterday, that's one thing they didn't mention, getting any federal help.
Well, I saw the same thing, and I'm going to give him a day. I would believe that the FBI, first of all, that the FBI probably called them.
I would think.
And said, we're coming down, get us some hotel rooms. We're
Yeah.
bringing some people, and we're going to see what's going on. You know, Albuquerque is a very complex city when it comes to race, when it comes to gangs, when it comes to a lot of different forces.
And it's smaller than you might think.
And it's a small city. It really is a small town. I have several friends that were from Albuquerque and are from Albuquerque, and the overriding factor in all of them is that you want to get out of Albuquerque as fast as you can when you're growing up. You know,
Let's go.
Let's get out of here. It's not a city. You know, Tucson, Phoenix, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, you know, all cities that people talk about moving to when they retire. You don't hear many people talk about moving to Albuquerque.
It's not growing.
Yeah, maybe Taos, maybe, you know, Santa Fe, maybe something like that, but those are playgrounds really for people with money or tourist spots. But you don't hear Albuquerque mentioned in the same breadth as those other cities for retirement for people, even mobile working, and it's really the same kind of town as Tucson. Now,
Yes.
Tucson was like that years ago, where people didn't want to move there because you had crime, but they figured out how to at least get rid of it. Albuquerque hasn't figured that out yet. So I I don't, I saw the same thing you did. That and the fact that all of the people, the three people, four people that have been killed, have all been named Hussein.
Wow.
Now, how do you? I mean, how does a killer? I mean, that's an extraordinary. It's either an extraordinary coincidence, or somebody knows somebody, and is feeding somebody information.
Well, it could be somebody from that community. It could be somebody who's opposed to that community. But to have the ability to find out names and do your hunting on the name of a person, I mean, that gets to be kind of spooky. Now we're dealing with the dark side of a serial killer.
Right, right. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, this person is picking these people out, not at random, but at but there's a method, an MO,
And it's accelerating.
and it's accelerating. So it's gonna bear watching what's going on there. It's and I do believe that the FBI will get, like I said, I believe by the end of the day today, they'll be on the ground there and starting to figure things out, because it's becoming a more, I mean, it's obviously now a high profile case. That's the thing in this country. You get three shootings or four shootings, and it's like not.
Sorry, that's not a deal.
Man, we don't need to call the FBI. The FBI. I
No,
mean, it's just especially in a place like Albuquerque, where you have a high crime rate to begin with. You don't, maybe you don't immediately put it together.
that's probably part of it.
Yeah, once, I mean, again, it's funny, Michael. We always, our concept of police, and this was really shown to me in Uvalde. We all have been lucky enough to live in places where the police, whether you like the police, you don't like the police, they're still highly trained. They still, for the most part, have to have college degrees to get on the force or military experience. There's still a sophistication about the police department. They have intelligence units, things like like that. I mean, there's a breadth and a way that they do business, that is, yeah, you still got the cop who is what he is, but there's more cops that know what the hell they're doing. In places like Albuquerque and Tucson and Uvalde, a cop is not a great job.
No.
A cop is not a job. You take that job because, almost purely, that you want to have control. You want to you want to have a steady income for your
A,
family,
a pension.
a pension, and and the intelligence level is different. I mean, we saw that in Uvalde.
Horrible.
Nobody said that, but that's, to me, one of the things, having traveled this country, all across this country, back and forth, and that's something that I've always noticed about the cops. That the cops in smaller towns and places like that sometimes do not have the sophistication and the intelligence and the training
And the experience.
and the experience that we who live in big cities and encounter these types of police forces that have experience and so on and so forth are used to. Um, they may have gone through shooter training down there, but did they comprehend it?
No. They
Did they
know.
understand what it was?
I wonder if they actually went through the motions in a situation that would try to mimic the emotional level that you have to conquer to go through that door.
We're listen, we're a Uvalde Police Department, but we do things our way. We know what's best for Uvalde. Yeah, you can show us this stuff. We'll walk around. It's a week at a hotel in Dallas or something like that, or in Fort Worth,
Yeah,
or wherever.
we listened to your presentation and we took notes, but we're going to try the wait and see because that works for us right now. So we're
Because
going to
we
go.
think because that's what So I mean, either there's an I don't understand it, I can't comprehend it, or I don't give a damn. We'll do it the way we do it here.
Little
And
of
I
both,
think
I would think.
you could look at Albuquerque and probably find some of that as well. When you look at the PIOs, I mean, look at the difference in the PIO that handled the first guy that handled Uvalde and the one that handled um, Highland Park, the July 4th shooting in Highland Park. It was a world of difference. Mikey, you're frozen up on me. Do we have you? Hello, Michael. All right, looks like, let's see if we can get Michael back. Somehow he is frozen up. Okay, Mikey must be having some internet problems. So, hopefully he will redial us back up again, punch us up again, and we'll continue the show for another couple of minutes with him. But my thought on this is simply that through fault of their own, through no fault of their own, instead of defunding the police, which so many people advocate, and I never really have, because you need the police, you need some kind of security force. Instead of defunding the police, we need to educate the police, to train the police. I mean, they have a hard job. And again, our country is such that we've turned the police into enemies, but you need to have a mechanism, a situation that weeds out the bad ones and praises the good ones. And I just think in Albuquerque, going back to these murders, that we'll find, I don't know what we'll find really, but they're going to need some outside help. The FBI is I am sure going to get involved. I am sure that the state police are already involved, and I hope that they find whoever is doing it, and quickly, because to live in that kind of fear, I know what it's like to live under that kind of fear. I was around for Son of Sam, and it does strange things to people. It makes them think differently, and you just don't want that. All right, listen, that's going to wrap it up for us. It's 11:10, so that gives us just about an even hour of show. Mikey hasn't clicked back in. Maybe he's having an internet problem or a blackout problem. Who knows? Southern California, who knows what it could be in the summer, right? Could be a UFO landed on his building. I don't know. So we will catch up with you again on Wednesday morning at 10:10, and you'll find us there. You can also find us on YouTube, and don't forget Drive Time Radio on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9 over the air on 1150 KKNW and in several other places as well. Well, thank you so much for listening to our little program here that we do thrice weekly. And for my friend Michael Knight, I'm New York Vinnie. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Wednesday morning if the Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. Peace, love, Manischewitz, baby.